there can sometimes be an additional component that is the interview. So we are definitely, this is pre-law, post-Rona. So you can expect to see more Zooms and Skypes in the future. But how, medium aside, how should students prepare for interviews? What are the important things to know going in?
So I serve on, Georgetown has an interview component. And so I serve on as one of those alumni interviewers. And what students really should know is they should know about the law school. They should know why they want to go to that law school in particular, right? And they should also probably know a little bit about the person that they're interviewing with, whether you check them out on LinkedIn or mention something, things like that. Georgetown.
Let me pause right there.
Sure.
Because I've done these interviews as well. There is value in Google, but if you found my social media page,
yes, don't request it. Yeah, don't.
That's weird.
Add me or
don't request me to be a friend. Don't request your interviewers on Facebook or LinkedIn or any social media.
Yeah.
Because there's some impartiality that you want to keep as an interviewer to not be engaged with the person that you're interviewing.
Right. And to remain unbiased, you probably, if you are the interviewer, you shouldn't be approving those things before the interview anyway. You could connect with me on LinkedIn afterward if you want, but not before. I think also one thing that Georgetown prides itself on is that Georgetown law graduates are genuinely like people you'd like to chill with at some point or another, right? And so that's a big component, at least for me, for the interview, right? And Georgetown does ask a series of questions after the interview is over, but some things that you would want to keep in mind when you're interviewing is how, not saying that you have to be a social butterfly, right? But how engaged are you with the interviewer? Georgetown is gonna want to know like whether you have the social and personality skills to be able to thrive in law school. And that's to say there are some horror stories about gunners and folks like that. And that's really not the type of student that Georgetown is interested in. Instead, we're interested in people who are passionate about the law, passionate about helping others in some sense, right? Because we are we do have a social justice mission. And all of those things are things that you want to consider, but definitely know about the law school and know a little something about the person that you're interviewing with. And if you're communicating with that person to schedule an interview, then you probably don't flake. If something's going on, just let the interviewer know, because that is a first impression and it could negatively impact you going forward.
And when you're preparing for your interview, to go your physical presence in the room, be professional, be neat. You don't have to have a Hugo Boss suit on, but you do want to dress professionally and be cordial to the person. Maybe not a handshake if you are ever having an in-person meeting, but I think a thank you note to the interviewer never hurts. It's not a requirement, but at the end of the day, the person who you are interviewing with is still a person. They're going to have preferences. You're not going to be able to nail down what is the list of things I need to do to impress that person, just as we meet people every day and our interactions with folks are varied. But at a high level, you want to be engaging, you want to be personable, be cordial, and show that you are interested in having that 30-minute conversation with that person.
And also in group interview settings, because I know Vandy and Georgetown do that, you want to make sure that you're cordial to the other people who are interviewing with you too. A lot of times people don't consider other applicants as someone that they should be nice to. But when you're in an interview setting, the interviewers are watching those sorts of things as well. So that's something you want to be cognizant of too.
And to the extent that you have to do a virtual interview, something that I recommend being mindful of is, one, being on time as if it were a regular interview or in-person interview, but have some sort of professional background. So whether it's a background like mine or Taifha's, that's perfectly fine. A white wall, something that's just somewhat clean and, decent in the background. What you don't want, a bed, a unmade bed in your background, or clothes, thrown across your floor in the background. To the extent that you can have it, you definitely want some privacy. So go in a bedroom, close the door, etc. Worst case scenario, if you need to do an interview, from your car and, just that's your silent place, that's perfectly fine. And so just know that, you want your background, etc. not to be too chaotic. Also, a question that you definitely need to know as well is why you want to go to law school. UCLA, we only interviewed students, from the wait list or that were applying as transfer students, but that is a question that I was always surprised by the number of students that did not have an answer to that. So if you are applying to law school, in addition to knowing why you want to go to that specific law school, you should know why you want to be a lawyer as well. So that's an easy question to kind of weed people out. But also, to the extent that you can, feel free to reach out to schools in advance, whether, you call them. I know a lot of schools are virtual, but they have someone probably answering phones from home right now. But just ask them, what is, your ideal personality of a candidate, or, what's the personality of your law school? Because every school has some sort of culture. And to the extent that you're doing an interview, more likely than not, the interviews are trying to determine how you would fall within that culture. So be mindful of what that culture may be at each